Ryugumon for Digimon Liberator is back with Yaoqing Lang with the all-new Aquatic support, mainly with the all-new level 7 boss monster, Ariemon. This archetype mainly focuses on the fish and aquatic trait Digimon, where you want to tuck as many sources in your Digimon stack as much as possible. That is to gain additional inherent effects and bonuses as you get to play them back out as well and repeat the combos over and over, mainly to unsuspend and dish out multiple attacks. Thanks to the new Ariemon, you can now flood the board with aquatic Digimon so that you can tuck them back underneath the sources so that you can keep unsuspending and attack over and over in order to win your games. And with that, let's begin talking about the build I'm currently working on. Starting with Digi-Egg cards, I'm actually running the BT7 Bukamon that allows us to gain a memory whenever we play any Digimon from sources. Since this deck focuses a lot on that, I want to capitalize and gain as much memory as possible in order to make more plays. Now let's talk about our level 3s, which are all going to be Sangomons, starting with the 4 copies of the BT19 one, which is our main searcher of the deck, allowing us to hit anything that is Aqua or Sea animal in trait, as well as Liberator. This is one of the cards that you want to see in your hand as much as possible because it can consistently get you double hits in this deck very easily. And then with its inherent effect, you get to gain a memory at the end of attack, which is incredibly useful to help you make more plays. Next, I'm also running 4 copies of the one from BT21, which is mainly to help us reduce our digital vision costs as we climb into our level 4, as long as it's aquatic or mollusk in its trait. Inherent effect, just like the other previous Sangomon, gain a memory at the end of attack. And then for the new Sangomon from BT22, I'm currently running 3 copies of this card. That is mainly to give your stack inherited with jamming, which is really important as you swing into your opponent's security, as you want to make sure to survive. Otherwise, you can also use this on-play effect by tucking itself underneath another source, giving it battle protection and blocker that lasts until the end of opponent's turn. That's it for level 3s. Now let's talk about level 4s, starting with Xiaomon, which I'm running 3 copies of the one from BT19, which is mainly intended to help play out our Yaoqing Lang from our hand for free, as long as we have 1 or fewer Tamers when we Digivolve into it. Just like the inherent effects of the Sangomons that we saw before, we get to gain a memory at the end of attack. As for the other promo Xiaomon from the tournament pack, I'm currently running 2 copies of this card just to help us tuck additional sources underneath when we need to, and we also get to draw a card. Its inherent effect is slightly different to the other Xiaomon. This time, instead of gaining memory, it also lets us draw a card so that we can keep our hand size as healthy as possible. Then I'm running 2 copies of Ariemon from EX6. Since we play a lot of Digimon back from the sources, and it has aquatic in its trait as well, we can play this card back out to draw another card and also gain memory. Aside from that, having the inherent effect of jamming is also great, which I mentioned earlier as well. And then to wrap up for the rest of the level 4s, I'm running 2 copies of Lanamon from BT18, which has 2 usages. First is that in the early stages of the game when we Digivolve into her, we can cycle the top 3 cards of our deck, add additional sources underneath, or grab anything within the archetype trait that we want into our hand. Otherwise, we can utilize it as a hybrid for game in the later stages of the game, as long as we have a unsuspended Yaoqing Lang that we can Digivolve on top of to make it additional attack. And then with its inherent effect, we get to bounce the opponent's level 3 Digimon back to the hand while we attack, which is great for getting rid of Floodgate rookies. That's it for level 4s. Now let's talk about level 5s. Since we're playing Bukamon, I still feel that the Huankunmon from EX6 is one of the best additions to be included in order to maximize the efficiency of gaining as much memory as possible. Just because when we Digivolve and play this card out, we get to play a level 3 from sources and we get to utilize its on-play effects. And that allows us to capitalize the inherent effect of Bukamon as much as possible, effectively making this a 2-cost level 5 Digivolve. Aside from that, the inherent effect of being able to unsuspend by tucking another Digimon back into the sources is really important to gain us even more value to reuse the inherent effects and also dish out multiple attacks in order to win games. And that's the reason why I decided to focus more on Huankunmon more than the Marine Bullmon overall, but I'm still running the regular Marine Bullmons in this deck, which I have 2 copies of the one from BT19. It has decode for a level 4 blue Digimon so that we can play it out from the sources whenever this Digimon will leave the battle area, except by battle. When we play or Digivolve into this card, we have to tuck a source underneath it, and ultimately is to utilize its inherent effect to play out level 4 or lowers within our sources so that we can gain board advantage that way. Same goes for the newer one from BT22, which I'm currently only taking 1 copy of. It has the ability to let us warp straight from a Sangomon as long as we have Yaoqing Lang on the board, plus a Xiaomon in the trash to tuck underneath a Sangomon. And by paying the 3 costs, we instantly get to go all the way into a level 5 and set up for a potential level 6 or 7 play. Otherwise, the rest of the effects is exactly the same as the BT19 version of itself with decode and its inherent effect of being able to play at a level 4 or lower at the end of attack. Lastly, to wrap up for the rest of the level 5s, I also decided to tech in 1 copy of Mega Seadramon from EX8. That's to give us further unsuspending effects so that it can dish out even more attacks with its when Digivolving effect, as well as its inherent effect being exactly the same as Huankunmon. Level 6 is, I'm running 3 copies of the all-new BT22 Ryugumon. One of the reasons is because that this only costs 3 to Digivolve, itself has decode for level 5, And when we Digivolve into it, we get to tuck a source from our hand underneath to rack up unheard-of effects. And by doing so, we get to stun down the opponent's Digimon or Tamers that last until the end of the opponent's turn. And then lastly, with its final effect, we also get to bottom deck a level 5 or lower as long as we tuck sources underneath Ryugumon. Since this effect is all turns, meaning that if we ever tuck a source underneath during the opponent's turn, we also get to further disrupt their plays. As for the secondary level 6, I'm running 2 copies of the BT19 Champagne mod. Although it does cost 5 memory to Digivolve, but as long as when you Digivolve into it, you get to tuck another source that is in the battle area underneath it to gain 3 memory back and also unsuspend any Digimon that you want. And by doing so, this becomes a 2-cost level 6 Evo instead. It has security attack +1, giving you the offensive strategy to chunk down your opponent's security as you unsuspend to deal 2 checks at a time, which can deal 4 damage in total. And it has blocker itself, giving you a defensive play to stop the opponent's attacks. And now for level 7s, which is the main new boss of the deck, which I'm running 3 copies of Ariemon. There are 2 ways to Digivolve into this card. You can either pay 4 memory to Digivolve on top of level 6, or you can warp straight from a Marine Bullmon for 6 costs instead. It has decode for anything that is level 6 or lower that has the Aqua or Sea Animal trait. And when you Digivolve into this card, you get to play out a level 3, 4, and 5 from sources for free. You also get to trigger the on-play effects of those Digimon to gain further value. Afterwards, by tucking one of your other Digimon into the bottom of the sources of the stack, you get to bottom deck any one of your opponent's Digimon. This effect can also be used when attacking once per turn, therefore the longer Ariemon stays on the board, the greater value it is for you. That's it for Laura Digimon. Now let's talk about Tamers, which I'm running 3 copies of the promo Yao Qing Lang from the tournament pack. It helps us gain a memory at the start of main if the opponent has a Digimon, and whenever we tuck sources underneath, we can then Digivolve into our next level for the reduced cost of 1. And this helps us climb up into our Aqua and Sea Animal stack faster. As for the other Yao from BT19, I'm running 2 copies of this card just as our main memory setter, but also to synergize together with the promo Yao, because as we attack, we can suspend this Tamer to tuck additional sources that's level 5 or lower, Aqua or Sea Animal, and then we can also trigger other effects alongside with it, and also gain additional inherent effects. Then I got 1 copy of the newer Yao from BT22, which is almost like a scramble at the starter main. By bottom decking this Yao, we get to play out another Yao for our hand for free, and if we don't have a Digimon on the board, we also get to play out a Sangomon from the trash as well. And the secondary effect is really nice to help you replenish cards from your hand just by drawing 1 whenever you tuck sources from your hand underneath your stack. And now for the option cards, I'm running 2 copies of the all-new Unique Emblem Posedia Lagoon. Just for the 3 costs, you get to play out a Sangomon or Yao Qing Lang from your hand for free, and then you get to set it in the battle area. This delay effect allows you to Digivolve into a Aquatic Liberator, reducing its Digillusion cost by 3 whenever you suspend your Yao Qing Lang during your turn. That is how you can climb up into a Ryugumon or even Ariemon for reduced cost, and potentially helping you keep turn to ramp up into your big bosses quickly. Otherwise, there's some niche cases if your opponent checks into this card in security, you get to activate its main effect to play out a Sangomon, where you can play out the new BT22 Sangomon, and if you ever have the BT22 Ryugumon on the board already, you can tuck that BT22 Sangomon underneath the Ryugumon to then also proc its other effect to bottom deck one of your opponent's level 5 or lower, since it is all turns. And lastly, rounding up for the rest of the blue staple option cards, I'm running 3 copies of Mental Training, 2 copies of Blue Memory Boost, and 1 copy of Blue Scramble. Tech choices and other cards that you guys can also include in this deck, since this is a Sangomon deck after all. That is why you can also still consider adding the Puyoumon from the newest one from BT22 to help you draw more cards as you tuck more sources underneath, or you can run the older Puyoumon from BT19 just to disrupt your opponent's attacks, and you can synergize together with Decode. Speaking of Decode, there's also the new BT22 Xiaomon that you can also include to tuck additional sources when you play or Digivolve into it, and also provide you extra inherent effects of jamming. Other than the current level 4 lineup, you guys can also play the 2 different kinds of Siege Mons, which are also aquatic in trait. The BT15 one to have rush itself, so when you play it from the sources, it gives you another additional attack, and also having jamming as an inherent effect. Otherwise, there's also the promo one, which gives the rush in the form of inherent effect, and when you play it out, you can give one of your Digimon battle protection that lasts until the end of the opponent's turn. Other level 6s, if you want to go for more control variant, you can still play the older Ryugumon from BT19 just by combo off by bottom decking your own stack and then decoding, and as well as bottom decking your opponent's Digimon at the same time. Similarly with the EX6 Champagne, which gives you Wideboard removal when you Digivolve into it to tuck additional sources on the board underneath the stack, and then you also get to play something back out as well. If you're looking for aces and counters, there's also Metal Seedramon that can de-Digivolve and bottom deck your opponent's Digimon, and also all turns prevents your opponent's Digimon from suspending as long as you have 1 or more memory. Then there's also Invisimon that can de-Digivolve and delete and then scan your opponent's security, and another reason to consider running it is also because it's a Liberator trait, which is searchable off the BT19 Sangomon. Combos and how to play the all-new Ariemon and the updated Ryugumon Aquatic deck. It is stack-based after all, so you want to Digivolve up your line with your Sangomons. You need to find your pieces by playing the BT19 one to search for effectively 2 hits, Blue Memory Boost, Mental Training to grab your Tamers, as well as your Shellmons to play out your Tamers for free. Set up your Unique Emblem Posedia Lagoon so they can Digivolve for free as you climb up into your Marine Bull or Ryugu or even Ariemon eventually, and then utilize Huankumon to play out bodies, unsuspend, and use Shangpingmon for extra damages. For the first combo, I'm going to show you guys how you can climb all the way up from Sangomon into a level 6, and for this particular one, I want to showcase Shangpingmon just because of how much I really like it for aggressive damage, for extra security checks, as well as blocker to defend ourselves to set up as early as we can. 1 memory is all we need alongside with Mental Training and with the BT21 Sangomon. We're going to push out and then use its cost reduction effect to Digivolve into Xiaomon for only 1. This BT19 Xiaomon is going to allow us to play out a Yaoqing Lang since we have 1 or fewer Tamers. We're going to play out the Memory Setter one right here. Now we're going to use the delay effect of Mental Training to Digivolve into Huankumon for only 1 cost. Huankumon is now going to allow us to play out a level 3 from sources, which is going to be the Sangomon right here. Unfortunately, no on-play effects, but that's totally fine because Bukamon is going to gain us a memory. Now we're going to analyze the board situation, depending if the opponent has anything to interact against us or counter and get rid of our stack. If they don't, this is why I want to go for a swing by ensuring that I have something that can tuck underneath with jamming in my hand. I'm going to swing with Huankumon right here to utilize the Yaoqing Lan to tuck exactly the Shichuanmon or anything that has jamming inheritable to go for 1 check first. The check is going to go through, and then at the end of attack, Xiaomon is going to gain me a memory. In order to finish the turn off, I can then Digivolve into Shangpingmon for the full 5 cost first, and then using his when Digivolving effect to tuck my other Digimon, which is going to be the Sangomon, I get to unsuspend a Digimon, which is going to be itself, and also gain 3 memory back, passing the opponent down to 1. This is going to set up the Shangpingmon for blocker to interact against the opponents. If they don't get rid of the Shangpingmon in the following turn, I'm going to start going for aggressive attacks with security attack +1 to deal as much damage as possible. Hypothetically, let's say the opponent doesn't get rid of it. I start my turn at 3 memory right here. I hatch my egg. I can just hard drop this Sangomon for 3 costs, and then I can swing for 2 checks using Huankumon's effect to tuck this Sangomon underneath to unsuspend, and that's going to be a total of 3 checks so far dealt to the opponent's security with the other 1 check done prior. And then I can repeat once again another 2 checks, and the opponent is down to 0 security at this point, and at the end of the attacks I get to gain a bunch of memory back as well, gathering a ton of momentum during the course of the game. But in this combo, I'm going to show you guys another way to climb all the way up into your level 6, but instead of Shangpingmon this time, we're going to get into Ryugumon and potentially end the turn with Ariemon so we can flood the board with a ton of Digimon. The setup is that we're going to have the BT19 Yaoqing Lang, which is the memory setter starting us at 3, and as well as the BT21 Sangomon once again to help us reduce our Digivolution cost. So we're going to go ahead and push out and use this effect to reduce the Digivolution cost to get into Xiaomon once again for 1. Now that we have 1 or fewer Tamers, this time we can set up the other promo Yao from the tournament pack, which is going to be crucial for us to help us extend and climb up even further. Just like before, Digivolving into Huankumon for 3 costs, and then using Huankumon's effect to play out Sangomon in order to trigger the Bukamon effect to gain a memory so we keep our turn. Assuming the opponent might have a level 5 or level 4 of an ace that we want to need to play around against, this is how we can actually this time go for a safe swing and get rid of the Digimon all at the same time. So I'm going to attack with Huankumon, and now I'm going to suspend the Yao, which is going to allow me to tuck a jamming source underneath. Just like before, we're going to this time use a level 3, which is going to be important for later on too. Because we tuck something underneath here, this Yaoqing Lang is now going to kick in, allowing us to Digivolve the Huankumon into a Ryugumon for reduced cost of 1, so we pay 2 memory instead. Using Ryugumon's effect of when Digivolving, we're going to tuck in another level 3 if we can, or anything that can help us gain a memory at the end of attack right here. I'm going to put in the Sangomon right there. By placing a source underneath Ryugumon, we first get to stun down one of the opponent's Digimon or Tamers for an entire turn. And then afterwards, because we place something underneath, we also get to bottom deck the opponent's level 5 or lower in order to play around any potential level 6 or level 5 aces that they may have. Once the check goes through with jamming, at the end of the attack, we're going to gain 1 memory each here, keeping our turn. Depending on the situation, we can easily just Digivolve for 1 cost into Xiaomon to pass the turn at 1 to put the opponent with as little resources as possible. But if I want to further go for aggression and extend, I'm going to Digivolve into Ariemon here this time for the full 4 costs. With Ariemon's effect, I can play out a level 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to play out this Sangomon, the only Xiaomon, and the Huankumon underneath the sources, going for a wide board play right there. But first of all, we're going to resolve any on-play effects that we may have. Let's go for the Huankumon here first to play out this Sangomon. Well, since it's played out with the on-play effects, we get to replace it back underneath, and now the Ariemon gains blocker and battle protection until the end of the opponent's turn. And now we're going to activate Sangomon's effect to search and grab pieces of what we need, and then using last effect of Ariemon of when Digivolving, we can tuck the Sangomon back underneath to unsuspend and bomb deck one of their Digimon as well. That way we set up a board with so many sources, in the next following turn we can continue to attack again and again with Ariemon as it gets to unsuspend with her own effect, or if we ever tuck the Huankumon underneath as well, we can stagger our attacks by unsuspending one at a time as we retuck the sources back underneath and gain a bunch of inherent effects as well. And now for this combo, I'm going to show you guys how you can warp your Sango into Marine Bowmon and then getting into Ryugumon plus Ariemon, keeping turn to make a ton of attacks to gain as much value as possible. We're going to have both the Yaoqing Lang set up here on the board along with Unique Emblem Posedia Lagoon. We're going to have a Xiaomon in the trash as well. We're going to push out the Sangomon, and with the starter main, assuming the opponent has a Digimon, the promo Yao is going to gain us a memory. We're going to use the Marine Bowmon hand effect because we have a Yao on the board. We can tuck a Xiaomon from the trash underneath the sources of Sango to then Digivolve for 3 on top, ignoring the Digivolution requirements. Thanks to Sangomon as well from BT21, we get to reduce the Digivolution cost by 1, making it 2 memory instead. With this effect, because I tucked the source underneath, this is where I can suspend the promo Yao to Digivolve into Ryugumon for 1 less cost. Using Ryugumon's when Digivolving effect, I'm going to tuck the other Sangomon from BT22 underneath to get jamming. We get to stun down one of the opponent's Digimon or Tamers, and we also get to bomb deck a level 5 or lower now. Next, I'm going to attack with Ryugumon, and this time suspending this Yaoqing Lang to place a Huankumon underneath as a source. And because Yaoqing Lang is now suspended, we're going to use the delay of Posedia Lagoon to Digivolve into Ariemon for reduced cost of 3, which is a Aquatic Liberator, so that we only pay 1 memory. And then before we go for the check, we're going to resolve a bunch of effects where we get to play out a 3, 4, and 5. We're going to play out this Sangomon off here. We're going to play out the Huankumon as our level 5, and as well as Xiaomon here. Before, again, the continuing of the attack, we get to resolve a bunch of on-play effects. We're going to use the on-play effect of Sangomon to retuck it back underneath to give it blocker and battle protection for the entire turn. Now we're going to use Huankumon to play a level 3 back out. We're going to play this Sangomon back out, and because we played out a Digimon, Bukumon is going to allow us to gain a memory. And then finally with Ariemon, we get to tuck the Huankumon underneath the sources in order to unsuspend her, and also bottom decking one of the opponent's Digimon. This is going to go for 1 check. I'm not going to use the Marine Bowmon end of attack just yet, because now I'm going to swing with Ariemon and using the Huankumon inherent effect to tuck the Xiaomon underneath to unsuspend. This is going to go for another check into the opponent's security. Now at the end of the attack, we get to use Xiaomon to gain a memory back, and then use Marine Bowmon to play out another Xiaomon here. And since Ariemon is unsuspended, we can go ahead and attack once more if we want to. This combo really depends on what pieces and what setup you have, as you can continue to loop your unsuspends over and over to deal maximum damage to even potentially sometimes OTK your opponents. And that's the main reason why I really like the Huankumon, because it allows us to complete something like this to make multiple attacks in order to win the games with Ariemon. Draconic Blade is now live on the AVAULT Store, which is one of the most epic drops I ever released, and the first 50 people to order the full collection will get an exclusive memory marker during this time only. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you next video, and this is AVAULT signing